Okay, so hello and welcome to our January 24th, 2024 Jupyter Community Call. I'm Gabriel Fuesmo, and I'll be your host today. This is a place for JupyterLab contributors to connect with each other in the community about JupyterLab topics. We want all newcomers to feel welcome, so please feel free to jump in on discussions, introduce yourself. There's a couple things to know while you are here. First, I want to remind everyone that community calls will be recorded, which is what we're doing now, and they'll be posted to YouTube. Second, that the Jupyter community is, we are expected to hold up the Jupyter Code of Conduct. And I think everyone has been here before, so that's all I'm going to do as far as boilerplate. And then let's go on to the first item on the agenda. It's you, Jason, right?
I think that's me, yeah. So JupyterLab 4.10 currently has 2 release blockers on it. We usually look into those in the additional discussion, right? I believe 4.10 is currently in beta, so please check it out if you haven't already. And if you can look into any of these release blockers, that'll help us move forward to a release candidate and general availability stage. I don't know, does anybody else have other proposals, thoughts, announcements about 4.10?
I think Mike worked on the draft for like posting something on social media. I don't know if it's been reviewed or accepted yet, but there is now a user-facing changelog, which is much nicer to look at than the generative changelog, so that users know what to expect from the new release. So I think that will be hopefully that will be out soon.
Nice.
And then we can maybe ask more feedback and ask for people to report issues if they find any.
Is there any tentative schedule for a release candidate or a general release of 4.10?
I think once the 2 release blockers are addressed and nothing else comes is reported, or if there is no other big issue, then I guess we can just move to RC. And then it depends, but usually it's like at least 1 week or 2 for RC. Maybe for the one week would be enough. Again, like if nothing major comes up, and then final release, I suppose.
Cool. All right. Yeah, we can take a look at the release blockers in the off-the-record portion at the end, but thank you for the update on that.
Yeah, good news is that there are already PRs addressing the blockers, so we need help on just reviewing the PRs.
Nice. Looks like William is next. Want to go ahead, William?
Sure. I just had a quick question about like where the organization of the menu structure for JupyterLab came from and how it relates to Jupyter Classic. And most importantly, I'm reorganizing and refactoring the menus in CodeCalc, and I want to make them somehow maximally compatible with the future of the Jupyter, the official Jupyter project, and with people's muscle memory and so on. So like Jupyter Classic has like a fairly different menu layout than JupyterLab, and I wondered if that was on purpose and if there's like a plan to change Jupyter Classic to match with JupyterLab, or maybe that's already happened and I don't know about it. And I see Jason wrote some very reassuring statements in the document about usability studies resulting in the current layout in JupyterLab. But I don't know if anybody can point me at something or have any comments. But they're very different. Like JupyterLab has a run menu, whereas the same things are in the cell menu in Jupyter Classic. So one's kind of oriented towards a cell, and the other's like an object, and the other's more oriented towards an action. So it's interesting, and I don't have a preference really. I just want to aim for compatibility.
Yeah, I think originally in JupyterLab we had an object-oriented menu. And so it was, Notebook had its things and Terminal had its things, etc. And it wasn't very usable by people. And so that's when we said, okay, let's go back to the drawing board and think about it from the perspective of actions and what somebody wants to do. And then we did some usability studies at JupyterCon where we, presented various user journeys and asked them to arrange these items in menu structures. And I don't remember where the write-ups are on those sorts of things, but anyway, that's where we sort of landed on this. And then the other thing for us was, how do we make it extensible so that various extensions can plug into different parts of the menu? And that was really easy when there was a notebook menu. And if you had a notebook extension, you could add something to the notebook menu, but then it just got to be this mishmash of all sorts of things. And so then we started being a lot more opinionated about, okay, for this particular common type of action, like you have your screenshot here of the run menu, you can add items in this section if they are about running cells, and you can add items in the view menu if they're about displaying things. And so we got a lot more opinionated about how the menu was structured and what the extension points were in the menu. And I think Jeremy can answer about Classic Notebook.
Yeah, I'm really curious about what
Yeah.
the plans are with Classic. It looks like there's an issue that it looks like Notebook 7 final switches to the JupyterLab menus. Is that right?
Yeah, I posted a link to an issue. Well, it's a bit funny because Notebook 7 was trying to do the other way around, trying to match the Classic Notebook menus just so that users won't get too lost when they switch, right? But I don't know if it's still relevant because now it was mostly to make the transition a bit easier to users. But if users are fine with the Notebook 7 menus, which are pretty much the same as JupyterLab menus, some are a bit reordered, but that's within each of the submenus. Just for trying to stay as close as the Classic Notebook, but I don't know exactly the main reason. About can't say more than what Jason already said before.
Okay, great. Yeah, because in CodeCal currently I have like the classic menu layout basically, but I'm refactoring and rewriting all the code today and relevant to menus, and I'll just switch it to match JupyterLab since it sounds like that's clearly the thing that going forward will be most compatible and consistent for users.
Yeah, one thing for sure is that the Classic Notebook is not maintained anymore, so it's probably never going to happen if a change like that in the Classic Notebook or in the NB Classic.
Also, the like insert menu with only two options always looked really funny, where it was just to insert a cell, and it was kind of an action, whereas everything else around it was an object. So I do like the new layout. Cool, thanks for the background. I really appreciate it.
Would you say it sounds likely that the that Notebook 7 will stay in sync with JupyterLab in terms of the menu?
I think for most of the menus, yes. For now, there is a little bit of customization, so we can keep it this way if that makes sense for Notebook 7. I mean, so a few menus are, I think, removed. There are if you open the file menu, then the order is a little bit different than in JupyterLab. I think Fernando did an audit at some point. Yeah, that was back in 2021, where he was kind of comparing side by side, and I think Tony also looked at this. And the idea was to just make it look the same because people who have been using the Classic Notebook have a lot of materials out there, like screenshots, like tutorials and educational content. And the idea was to have something that looks similar, right? So that's why Notebook 7 tried to match the Classic Notebook menus. And so far, we haven't seen that many users complaining that they couldn't find their menus anymore. There were a few issues, and they were addressed, but not that many apart from a few ones.
Right, so in the end, Notebook 7 was released with a JupyterLab compatible menu or a Notebook 6 compatible menu?
It's well, it's using the same main menu as JupyterLab, but so yeah, I mean, if you want to add a new menu entry, that will be a JupyterLab extension.
Right, right. But the item order and the top level menus and things like that follow JupyterLab more than Notebook 6.
It's a bit of a mix, right? So
okay,
I don't think we managed to match the classic notebook fully.
Okay.
It's probably achievable, but I don't know if it still makes sense today, 6 months after the release of Notebook 7. And
Yeah, I
someone
was-
wants to.
I mean,
what
from my
happened?
point of view, I wish they were very similar because I don't want to have to make a choice between the two or implement both. And I want users to be able to switch between all three easily. So
Yeah. Yeah, I guess now we're in a situation where you have the JupyterLab menus, then you have the classic notebook menus, and then you have the Notebook 7 menus a little bit between, but they tend to be a bit more similar to the JupyterLab menus. And I think the long-term goal would be to have like JupyterLab and Notebook 7 to be, quite close together. Like, I mean, they're pretty much the same application. And there are a few UX elements that make sense to have the same on both apps. But yeah, again, like what's more for like make it easy for people to switch to the new interface over time.
So there's our goal for Notebook 8, I guess. It's to bring the menus
Yeah.
into alignment, maybe delete the tabs menu, or something like that, but delete the things that don't make sense, but bring the menus more into alignment and bring people along a gradual path towards a unified menu system.
There are a lot of crazy ideas for, I think, Notebook 8 and JupyterLab 5, right? Like, I mean, I think at some point we were even thinking, like, why not ship both together, right? And trying to unify the two front ends. It's not clear yet, like, but open for suggestions, of course. Yeah.
Okay. So sounds like we were wrapping up on that. Next up on the agenda is Mehmet.
Hey everyone, I have a quick update on JupyterLab Desktop, and I would like to also do a demo of the new features I'm working on. This week, I released a new version of the desktop app, version 4011-1, which upgrades the bundled JupyterLab to version 4011, which is the latest. So that's released this week. And now I would like to do a demo of some new features I'm working on with JupyterLab Desktop, which is the upgrades to Python environment management. Now, from the UI of JupyterLab Desktop, you will be able to create new Python environments, and you will be able to manage the existing ones. There is also some CLI updates coming, which gives you additional options to manage these environments, more options compared to the UI. And let me start the demo. One sec. Share the app, okay. Okay, are you able to see my app now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the updates is when you are in an existing session, when you click on this button on top right, which shows you information about your current session and it gave you ability to change your current Python environment. Now, when you click on that button, this pop-up has been updated. It shows you your current environment here, and it allows you to restart your server by clicking this button in here. And also there's a new button to copy the session information to the clipboard, which copies the current session Python path, environment information, your working directory, etc., clipboard. And this lets you close this pop-up now instead of pressing escape or clicking outside. And this there's also a change here. Previously, you would paste a new Python path here to set as your Python environment, but this is now a filter. It lets you filter among your existing Python environments, and it has a fuzzy match to filter through the environments. And now you can select another environment and just restart the current session in that particular environment. And there's a new button here, which is for managing the Python environment. It's also accessible through this drop-down button. I'm not sure if you are able to see that. There's a Manage Python Environments button in there. And once you click that, this new dialog will show up. Are you able to see the dialog? Is it sharing?
No,
I
I
don't
think
see a dialogue.
you may need to share your whole screen because I think you're only sharing one window.
Yeah, let me do that. Give me a sec. Okay, are you seeing now? Manage Python Environments dialog?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, once you click the Manage Python Environments menu or from this pop-up, you will see this new dialog. This lists your existing Python environments on your system. The Conda environments and Python VM environments will be listed here. And you can do certain actions on these environments by clicking the menu on the right. You can copy the Python path for that environment. You can copy the whole environment info about that environment. And you can launch a terminal by activating that particular environment. Let me do that, launch terminal. Now this environment got activated in here, and you can check it is the proper Python here, and you can launch JupyterLab from here from CLI, which will launch the web application. And also you can click on the Reveal in Finder to go and browse that environment in your Explorer or Finder. And if you created this environment using JupyterLab Desktop, you will be able to delete it right from this dialog as well. Once you click that, the confirmation will show up, and then you will be able to delete this environment. And from this dialog, you can add additional environments on your system. The environments you see in this dialog are the environments that are discovered by the app. If they are not discovered for some reason, you can still go and add an existing environment to JupyterLab Desktop, and it will be listed here, and you can use it in the application. And from this UI, we are also providing a way to create new environments. There are two ways to create environments. One is just making a copy of the bundled environment, because we bundle a Python environment with the desktop application, which has JupyterLab installed. So you can make another copy of it in your system, and it's very simple. A new name will be provided for you, which is unique, and it is installed into a special directory for JupyterLab Desktop, which you can configure in the settings tab here. So once you click create, it will make a new copy of the bundled environment on your system. So you can go ahead and customize that and install additional packages there. So it is installed environment 6, and it is immediately available in JupyterLab Desktop. I can go and choose this environment for my session. And you can also create a new environments from scratch by downloading packages from registry. You can either use Conda or pip here, and this will create a fresh environment. It will install the latest version of JupyterLab, and you can specify additional packages here by separating by space here. And for example, I want to create a new environment with scikit-learn in it, and JupyterLab will already be installed there so that we don't have any compatibility problems. And once I create, these packages will be downloaded from registry, and they will be installed into environment 9 here. And if you want to see the output, the progress, you can also click this button to see that. and it's installing the Conda environment using Conda Forge. Okay. Okay, it finished successfully. And also the settings tab shows your Python environment configuration here. You can set the default Python environment for the JupyterLab server launches that are used by the desktop application. You can specify your new environment installation directory here, the Conda binary path here, which these are already discovered and preset for you, but you can configure those. You can also change the Conda channels you want to use. And if you are on a new system where you don't have Conda, and if you want to just create a VNV environment, we need to have a system Python path, which is also discovered, but if not, you can specify it here as well. So this is basically the UI updates, and also some updates to CLI are coming with this PR. So you already had the JLab and Vim4 CLI, which lists your configuration, and we already had also JLab and list, which lists existing discovered Python environments. But there's a new way to install or create environments now, which is by specifying the using the env-create command and by specifying the environment source. So from an environment YAML file, you can create a environment on your system by using this CLI command. And there are different environment source types supported. You can use a Conda pack tarball directly, like the desktop application is using. You can use from internet or from your local machine. And you can also use a Conda log file path, which can also create this environment from the Conda log file. And you can see that I am creating a NumPy environment from this NumPy environment Conda definition file that's on the internet. And on top of that, JupyterLab Desktop will always add the JupyterLab package. It will make sure that JupyterLab package exists, so it is compatible. So you can see this environment NumPy env is created, and it is already integrated into JupyterLab Desktop. And next time I launch JupyterLab Desktop, it will be available for me. So let's test it. So this is the environment we created from CLI, and voila, it works. Yeah, that's all I had. Sorry, it took quite long. That's a lot of updates are coming. Any questions?
I think it looks really cool. Great work on JupyterLab Desktop.
Thank you. And you can leave any feedback on the PR afterwards.
I had a question, which is when you create the when you're managing the environments, is that something that could be done in JupyterLab itself, or does that have to be done on a desktop app?
Yeah, good question. The thing is, when JupyterLab desktop is newly installed on a machine, JupyterLab itself is not available yet. So that's why we need to have it as part of the desktop application itself, not as like a JupyterLab extension. I looked at other solutions like Conda Store, JupyterLab Conda Store package, but they are after the fact. They need to have JupyterLab running already, or they need to be installed separately. And the packages generated by Conda Store, like the Conda log files or the Conda environments themselves, they can be consumed by JupyterLab Desktop. But so those environments can be also installed using JupyterLab Desktop CLI today or with the PR, and they can be used as in the application. Similarly, Pixie, I haven't tried it, but Pixie is also creating conda pack environments, which can be used with JupyterLab desktop. Yeah, thanks, Nick. Gator, I also looked into that. I think it's the same thing. It is after the fact. It needs to have the JupyterLab running.
Okay, so thanks, Mehmet, for that. Let's move on to the next person. Jason again?
Yeah. Couple quick questions for the group. One was there's a pull request about fixing an issue in LSP, which is fixed in mainline, so it would go out for 410. But I was talking to someone who needs it sooner, and I'm wondering what the recommended process is to get this backported to 40x and then get a 40x release cut.
No problem with cutting the release. On the backporting side, that pull request also changed a public method into a private method. So that was a modification of the API in a very subtle way. And we probably would want to preserve the old state of the affairs when backporting. I've looked at the pull request which you mentioned, and it seems to me that we could backport that. It would be as easy as calling the bot and possibly making some slight adjustments. I don't see any major blockers there.
Okay. So is that something that I should put out as a backport, or would you be able to take care of the backporting? Like, what's the next step on it?
Feel free to try backporting that using the bot, and I will review that and help with merging and the
Okay.
release. I guess we will have a couple of bug fixes into 4.0x as well, so we can like make a new release with bug fixes sooner.
Okay. Thanks for that. The other question that I had is about the version lifecycle. Currently, our support for major versions of JupyterLab is we will keep supporting version N-1 until version N+1 comes out. So the current published policy is that we will keep maintaining JupyterLab 3 until JupyterLab 5.0 is generally available. And there's a proposal that I have a pull request out that I think it just affects the documentation. And I also opened a Team Compass issue to change that to say that version N-1 will only be supported or be maintained for until 1 year after version N.0.0 comes out, which this is important because JupyterLab 4.0 became generally available in May 2023. So that would mean that JupyterLab 3 would leave maintenance in May 2024, which is only about 3.5 months from now. And so, you know, I know that there's certain enthusiasm for JupyterLab 3 to kind of users to upgrade. What do folks think about moving forward with this life cycle change? I haven't seen any responses on either the PR or the Team Compass issue. I was thinking about calling for a vote among the JupyterLab Council.
I think that there were pretty positive responses, as indicated by upvotes on your
I see
issue.
some thumbs up reactions, some emoji. I didn't see any comments, is what I meant to say.
What I think we could consider is making this change now, but making an exception for JupyterLab 3, because we are just introducing that, and give 3 months or half a year more for JupyterLab 3, just because users who installed JupyterLab 3 didn't know about this rule because it was not in place back then. So exceptionally prolonged support for 3 and for all the subsequent major releases follow this rule. What do folks think?
My gut reaction is I'd like to announce this as leaving support on May 15th, 2024, and kind of gauge reaction from the community, and see if people are really expecting continued maintenance for longer, we could revisit that. But what do other people think?
Can we gauge opinions by not making a definite statement, but rather call for feedback using social media? What I wouldn't want to have is community losing trust in our previously established or in our resolve to support older versions. I think that what you are proposing, let's set this date. Let's try to follow that. Let's see what community thinks is okay. I'm just saying that it needs to be phrased precisely and really asked as a question rather than we are doing that, and only if there is backlash we'll backtrack on the decision.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe I can follow up with the JupyterLab Council on the mailing list, because I know that we have quite a few people on the Lab Council who aren't on this call. But I recognize that you know, the nominal end of maintenance date would be May 15th of 2024, which is about 3.5 months from now. If we say we'll support it until August 15th, that gives people effectively a 6-month notice to upgrade or face an end of maintenance.
So another question is, do we need to put a warning somewhere for someone installing JupyterLab 3 so that they know it's not maintained anymore, like when they start JupyterLab from the CLI, for example?
We did that for Notebook, right? That when people were launching Notebook, I think 5, we were saying, you know, warning, this is not going to be supported very soon.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just checking the download stats. I'm not sure if they mean anything, you know, but they're still useful to look at sometimes, like from PyPI. And it looks like the vast majority of downloads are now for JupyterLab 4, which is reassuring. But the order of magnitude, well, the difference is, it's like the past few months, it's around, I don't know, like 50,000 downloads for JupyterLab 3, while we have for more than 400,000 downloads.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's consistently roughly 5 to 10 times higher, the download rate of JupyterLab 4. But the thing is that looking at the raw numbers for JupyterLab 3, we're still seeing tens of thousands of downloads every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is, you know, I don't want to dismiss that, because that's a significant number of users.
And it's only a subset of users, right? There's this
download
stats. We have
not
no
everyone,
reason.
most people who use JupyterLab 3 don't download it every day. So there's probably a lot of people who are relying on it.
Yeah, I mean, we had the same issue when during the transition between Notebook 6 and 7, right? It was super hard to know like, how many people were still using a classic notebook.
Yeah.
Because there is no real data we can use to make an educated guess. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, trying to poll the community on various channels could be useful. Yeah.
I'm just thinking that there is a security release for 3.6 line, and there are the notifications which were introduced with the intent of possibly using them to notify users about security releases. the users who do have them enabled would have already been notified that there is a new version. So they would have downloaded the latest version. But maybe checking the stats right now is kind of more representative than if you did that a month ago when there was a very long streak of no patch releases.
Okay. Let me think about like next steps here. I think the immediate term next step is me following up with the JupyterLab Council to talk about, to kind of summarize what we've been discussing here and talk about either calling for a vote or having further discussion about this. I think that's all I wanted to talk about for now. Oh, thank you for adding these comments here. Jeremy is next up on the agenda. I want to make sure we have time for everybody.
Yeah, this one's going to be quick. It's about the discussion we had during the last few calls and also on the related GitHub issues about merging the JupyterLab and Jupyter Notebook subprojects. So just to let people know that there is now a pull request on the governance repo for that proposal, and it's ready for review and for vote from the EC and SSC council. So if you're part of these groups, feel free to cast your vote. And if you are just learning about this discussion, you can still also comment on the issue on the PR directly. And that's it. And next one is Mike.
Okay, so my first point is call for testing for JupyterLab 4.1 beta. And I've linked a draft for a message that I hope to circulate on social media. That draft was opened a couple of days ago, and there wasn't much feedback. I guess we don't have to debate every line of a short tweet, but I also sent it on Monday for the Jupyter Media Strategy Working Group, I guess. And I haven't received a reply, so I don't know whether they are able to circulate that. I don't know if Andrew is still on the call, who I think is the member of the group. Or maybe my email just went to the spam. So anyways, the alternative that Jeremy proposed is to just post it privately. And I think that's what we should do if there's no reply from the people managing the social media accounts. But if anyone has any feedback on the content, please do leave that. This is a pull request, so we can include inline suggestions as a comments. And the other point is just to let you know that there were 3 vulnerabilities fixed in JupyterLab or dependencies. One dependency, Jupyter SP, had a critical security vulnerability fix, which the advisory is linked in the notes. And because JupyterLab and Notebook 7 depend on that, you should really upgrade. And thank you for the researchers at Pillar Security for discovering and disclosing the issue and help with analyzing that. And thanks to Nick for help with fixing it. The other bit is in JupyterLab itself. So there were fixes for 3x, 4x, and 4.1x. JupyterLab desktop and notebook patch versions were also released. there are two advisories. They are not as critical, but they're comparable in severity, high to moderate. And this came from the bug bounty program sponsored by European Commission. Again, thanks to Fred for reviewing the pull request, to Jeremy for help with the notebook release, and everyone else who helped. I think there was also Piyush who helped with triaging these issues in the first place. So thank you everyone. That was great collaboration, and our applications are more secure now.
Okay, that's great news. Was there anyone else that wanted to put something on the agenda before I stop the recording? Okay, in that case, I'm going to stop the recording and we'll move to the unrecorded portion of the meeting.